1 year. Today we are starting Exodus, the second book in the Bible. Today we are reading chapter 1 and 2, and let's get started. Chapter 1. These are the names of the sons of Israel, that is Jacob, who moved to Egypt with their families, each with his family. Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, Zebulun, Benjamin, Dan, Naphtali, Gad, and Asher. In all, Jacob had 70 descendants in Egypt, including Joseph, who was already there. In time, Joseph and all his brothers died, ending the entire generation. But their descendants, the Israelites, had many children and grandchildren. In fact, they multiplied so greatly that they became extremely powerful and filled the land. Eventually, a new king came to power in Egypt who knew nothing about Joseph or what he had done. He said to his people, "Look, the people of Israel now outnumber us and are stronger than we are. We must make a plan to keep them from growing even more. If we don't, and if war breaks out, we will join our enemies and fight against us. Or they will join our enemies and fight against us. Then they will escape from the country." So the Egyptians made all the Israelites their slaves. They appointed brutal slave drivers over them, hoping to wear them down to crushing labor. They forced them to build the cities of Pithom and Ramses as supply centers of the king. For the king. But the more the Egyptians oppressed them, the more the Israelites multiplied and spread, and the more alarmed the Egyptians became. So the Egyptians worked the people of Israel without mercy. They made their lives bitter, forcing them to mix mortar and make bricks and do all the work in the fields. They were ruthless in all their demands. Then Pharaoh, the king of Egypt, gave this order to the Hebrew midwives, Zipporah and Puah. When you help the Hebrew women as they give birth, watch as they deliver. If the baby is a boy, kill him. If it is a girl, let her live. But because the midwives fear God, they refused to obey the king's orders. They allowed the boys to live, too. So the king of Egypt called for the midwives. "Why have you done this?" he demanded. "Why have you allowed the boys to live?" "The Hebrew women are not like the Egyptian women," the midwives replied. "They are more vigorous and have their babies so quickly we cannot get there in time." So God was good to the midwives, and the Israelites continued to multiply, growing more and more powerful, and because the midwives feared God, he gave them families of their own. Then Pharaoh gave this order to all the people: "Throw every newborn Hebrew in the Nile River, but you may let the girls live. Every Hebrew boy into the Nile River, but you may let the girls live." Chapter 2. About this time the men and women from tribe of Levi got married. The woman became pregnant and gave birth to a son. She saw that he was a special boy and kept him hidden for 3 months. But when she could no longer hide him, she got a basket made of papyrus reeds and waterproofed it with tar and pitch. She put the baby in a basket and laid it among the reeds along the bank and laid it in the river. The baby's sisters then stood at a distance, watching to see what would happen to him. So Pharaoh's daughter came down to bathe in the river. Sarah's daughter came to bathe in the river, and her attendants walked along among the reeds. She sent her maid to get it for her. When the princess crying opened it, she saw the baby. The little boy was crying, and she felt sorry for him. "This must be one of the Hebrew children," she said. Then the baby's sister approached the princess. "Should I go and find one of the Hebrew women to nurse the baby for you?" she asked. "Yes, do," the princess replied. So the girl went and called the baby's mother. "Take this baby and nurse him for me." The princess told the baby's mother, "I will pay you for your help." So the woman took her baby home and nursed him. Later, when the boy was older, his mother brought him back to Pharaoh's daughter, who adopted him as her own son. The princess named him Moses, for she exclaimed, I lifted him out of the water. Many years later, when Moses had grown up, he went out to visit his people, the Hebrews, and he said how hard they were, and he saw how hard they were forced to work. During his visit, he saw an Egyptian beating one of his fellow Hebrews. After looking in all directions to make sure nobody was watching, Moses killed the Egyptian and hid the body in the sand. The next day, when Moses went out to visit his people again, he saw two Hebrew men fighting. Why are you beating up your friend? Moses said to the one who had started the fight. The man replied, Who appointed you to be our prince and judge? You are going to kill me as you killed that Egyptian yesterday. Then Moses was afraid, thinking, Everyone knows that I did, or what I did. And sure enough, Pharaoh heard what had happened, and he tried to kill Moses. But Moses fled from Pharaoh and went to live in the land of Midian. When Moses arrived in Midian, he sat down beside a well. Not now the priest of Midian had 7 daughters who came as usual to draw the water and fill the water troughs for their father's flock. But some other shepherds came and chased them away. So Moses jumped up and rescued the girls from the shepherds. Then he drew water for their flocks. When the girls returned to Reuel, he asked, Why are you back so soon today? An Egyptian rescued us from the shepherds, they answered, and then he drew water for us and watered our flocks. Then where is he? Their father asked. Why did you leave him there? Invite him to come eat with us. Moses accepted the invitation and he settled there with him. In time, Reuel gave Moses his daughter Zipporah to be his wife. Later she gave birth to a son, and Moses named him Gershom, for he exclaimed, I have been a foreigner in a foreign land. Years passed and the king of Egypt died, but Israelites continued to groan under their burden of slavery. They cried out for help, and their cry rose up to God. God heard their groaning, and he remembered his covenant promise to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. He looked down on the people of Israel and knew it was time to act. That's it for today, guys. Thank you for watching. Actually, that was only 7 minutes, so I'm gonna do a little bit more of a Bible study. Kind of talk about this with the whole Moses coming and chasing the shepherds away and him getting a wife and stuff. It took me 5 minutes to read that, and it's probably more than a month long of what happened, But I've seen some movies, and I know not all movies are correctly accurate, and some of them are, they kind of over dramaticate, if that's a word, things like that. And so I saw in the movie that I watched, I'm not gonna name it because it was, I don't want copyright anyways. But anyways, it showed that the wife that the father had given to Moses is the daughter Zipporah or Zipporah. That girl in the movie that I watched, she was like a slave that was supposed to be Moses' wife, and they made it all dramatic and made Moses kind of treat her bad and things like that. So yeah, not all movies are right, but anyways, that's kind of what I just saw or remembered from reading this. I wanted to see on verse 25, it said he looked down on the people of Israel and knew it was time to act. On chapter 2, verse 25, and it said, or acknowledge his obligation to help them. So maybe he knew that he had to act, but he also knew that he had to, acknowledge his obligation to help them. So that's kind of what I saw. Also, there's chapter 2, verse 22. It says, later she gave birth to a son, and Moses named him Gershom. And it says Gershom sounds like a Hebrew term that means a foreigner there. And exactly what he says, that he was a foreigner in a foreign land and things like that. So that's kind of what I just wanted to touch on a little bit. In chapter 1, I don't know like why Pharaoh would think making the people slaves would like making making the it just it makes me so mad kind of. But it's all God's promise and plan and things like that. But making the Israelites kind of what's it called? Making the Israelites slaves, why was that a smart idea? Cuz he talked about how if he makes them mad, kind of, he's gonna they're gonna use if we make a plan to keep them from growing even more, if we don't, and if war breaks out, they will join our enemies and fight against us. They will escape from the country. So making them slaves is obviously gonna make them, of course it's gonna make them kind of crippled, I guess, and sad and mad at the same time. And like it said, they were always groaning and it was harsh labor. But how will that stop them from actually growing, kind of, in a point, I guess? Cause I don't know, cause he's talking and he's trying to make the midwives kill if it's a boy and live if it's a girl, but still it's not working. And they're multiplying and stuff, so why wouldn't they fight back? Even though Pharaoh would have the higher power, they still have more people, and again, they could have joined forces with their enemies. And yeah, I don't know. It's a mystery to me, but if you guys, I don't know, it's just all in God's plan and it's written there. But that's all that I had to talk about today, guys. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you guys all tomorrow. Bye.